Good afternoon, everybody.
Good
See, it was a
afternoon,
test to see if I even had my mic open. Thanks, Lois. How's everybody today? Good. I see one thumbs up. Leo is making me jealous. He's flown into South Florida, my old stomping grounds. He's in Delray Beach today, which is a good switch from from London and the UK. We're hoping you have a great visit. Leo, good to see you. And Tamara is back. We're glad to see her. And there's our leader. Hey, David.
Where'd Tamara go?
She's
Tamara, where'd you
shy.
go?
I'm technically at work, David.
Oh,
I was having
Aren't-
FOMO from watching
aren't
on
we all?
YouTube that I was like, well, I'll just pop in and be in the chat. So I may
we're
have to cut my
happy.
camera off.
We're happy you're here.
Super excited to be here.
That's for sure. Well, as many of you know, we have an open forum here to discuss things that happen in your Zoom life and other people's Zoom life. And let's see what is going on these days so that we don't bury the lead. Lois, what's on your mind today?
Well, after we get done greeting everybody, and also, as always, I'm going to have to leave early. I do have a question, which is, when you get a direct message, is there a way to have a sound play so that you know that you got a message? I know that you can do the doorbell thing for people coming and going, but any way to get a sound notification?
I don't hear a sound.
Yeah, that's a really
resounding.
good question.
No, it's a really, I think the answer is no, but I just thought I'd ask.
I
gonna look
think
in
that's
the
worth putting in a
settings.
request for.
Yeah.
That's
Check the settings real quick.
yeah, that's for sure. Well, you started it. You stumped us already, Lois.
Let's finish our introductions because we got a bunch more people joining.
We do. We have Roni is in Norway. Saw him earlier today on After Hours. John Wallace is in Pontiac, Michigan. Hello, John. We're glad you're here. And as always, the rock of this support for me is Mike Latta. Hey, Mike.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Doing good?
Mike, you're doing some experimenting today. Is that what I hear?
I am, yes. So if you see me busy looking at different screens, that is definitely what I'm doing today. Yes. So I will not be doing my proper looking at the camera today, Ray. So no picking on me.
I thought you were doing a tennis match. That's
Yeah,
what it
no,
looks
I'm
like.
actually preparing, and with all goodness of the mighty world of vMix, I will see if I can join this via Zoom.
That's good.
You,
Well, we're glad.
Mike, are you testing your sound as well as your video?
Why? Was I having issues with my audio right now? Or no?
I don't know. I mean, everybody sounds a little different, but I didn't think you sounded like that usually. Anybody else notice anything?
There's a lot of white noise in the background. Sounds very thin.
Okay. Is that any better?
Still thin, but the white noise is gone.
Okay.
When you give us an audio sample, Mike, you got to talk longer. Then is that better? Like you get a
Yeah, understood.
the
Yeah.
quick
So Peter
brown
Piper
fox
picked a
jumped.
peck
Yeah.
of, yeah, the Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Did he Peter Piper pick them? Is that better?
I think so.
I didn't notice anything, but Lois got a good ear for these things.
Cool. But yeah, I will I'll tweak that as well. But
I
that
didn't
was
actually
between
know.
original, that was good old Zoom doing original sound on me on and off problems again.
Yeah, I didn't actually hear any difference, but then understand that my high hearing is gone. It's just not there. So if you're talking up here, I won't be able to tell any difference.
So Tamara says, when did this magic pop up? What's that mean?
Well, because Frank posted that there is a way for us to get information.
I don't
Does
think
it
so.
work?
I
Well,
don't think so.
So I will tell you, I've had like 4 instances this week where something that I know wasn't there before has suddenly just magically appeared, and I missed that update. Like this morning, I was teaching complete novices how to spotlight, just the most basic spotlighting. We're not talking about any of the stuff we do. We're talking about just what is spotlighting and what is pinning. And now you can replace as part of the natural course of things, which happened sometime since I have done it last. And it was like magic that is something that a regular human can do without like Companion or, our Stream Decks. I was like, when
Did you
happen?
share that? Did you share that with your people, or are you going to let them discover it?
No, I was teaching it. So I was telling them how great it is that Zoom does this. But in my head, I was like, I have no idea when that happened, but it's awesome because I've not spotlit like regular spotlit in a long time. So it was just one of those things where I feel like every time I'm doing something in Zoom these days, there's just something that is magically there that has just popped up randomly. And I'm sure, I haven't been following every update like I normally do, but it's been delightful.
It's part of why we're here, is discovering the new things. Lois, you had your hand up?
I did. Thank you, Frank, for posting that. And looking closer at it, I see that is only available as team chat.
I didn't know what you meant. If you meant meeting chat or team chat, you just said direct message, so I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, I direct message in the chat. Yeah.
Meeting chat or team chat?
Meeting chat.
Meeting chat.
It's good to be
what's interesting
specific.
about that? What's interesting about that, Lois, is that there's actually in the settings here, there's under sound and behavior, play sound when I receive a message, show message preview, do not serve, and then mute chat notifications while I'm in a meeting or internal call.
That's in team chat, though.
I understand.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And don't we have to allow team chat? Isn't that the first step?
What do you mean?
In other words,
if your
is it-
admin doesn't allow it,
Right.
then you're not going to get anything, right?
Right. So if you don't have that team chat allowed in the sign on in your original plan, then team chat doesn't work. Is team chat part of your normal setup here, David?
I mean, I have team chat turned. I have no one to chat with, but I have it on. I do have it. Yeah.
You have to have a team set up in order for that to work.
Well, you have to, right. You have to have a business account. Well, no, actually you don't. You don't have to have a
Well,
business.
makes
It
a team.
comes with my pro account, I think.
Right.
Mike
can
and
do
I
it with
have a
your
team chat going. I don't know if you ever want to create like a Zoom
So-
Test Kitchen team chat, but Mike and I have one going for about a week or two now.
I haven't had a use for team chat, but all of a sudden I do. Talk more, Frank. Tell us more.
Well,
Because-
I'm not completely promoting it because we have Discord, and I'd like to see people use Discord more. But
Right. But I have, I've got two people that my use case, and you can tell me if this is a good idea for it, is to connect two of my teammates almost as a comm system outside of the meeting that wouldn't hit the meeting. That could be just
audio
the two of
comms
them.
or just text comms?
Just text. I don't even think
that would work. You
listen,
can do
we're
that.
not that advanced over here.
No. That would work if you want it low tech. That's an easy way. It's you could do it with iMessage or whatever WhatsApp, but you could do it with
Right.
Team Chat as well.
You could do it with notes in Zoom also, couldn't you?
Right. I'm trying to figure out I'm probably going to have them just text. This is a, they're babies, barely turn their computer on kind of folks.
Oh,
So,
okay. Well, that probably makes sense then.
Yeah. So like I said, I haven't used Team Chat yet because I haven't quite figured out if that is.
The thing about Team Chat, depending on how many Zoom services you subscribe to, you can go from a Team Chat to a meeting. You can go, if you have Zoom phone, you could go from a Team Chat to a phone call. So it does have that advantage of being able to immediately snap into a one-on-one meeting with somebody.
All right.
You and Mike aren't talking about me in your private chat, are you?
We always talk about you. No, it's just mostly chit chat and what's happening on Zoom Test Kitchen. Do you know what's happening Friday? Blah, 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 that kind of stuff.
And since that would allow you to play a sound when someone sent you a team chat, I could, in the meeting with the person that I'm needing to notice messages from, we could start a chat because we're the host and the co-host in the meeting, but that would have to be an additional. So is it just another window, or do you have to have an additional program or something? I'm in a meeting, things are happening, and they're going to send me a message and I'm not going to see it.
It's just another window. It's just a Zoom. It's in your Zoom client. It's not even another window. It sits in your. So here I can show you if you want. So here is my Zoom client. By the way, here's something I just learned the other day. Did you know that you can change this image right here, the Zoom image, in your Zoom client? Look at your Zoom client.
Yeah.
It just has the plants, right? And the time. You can change that. You can put your own little logo there. I'm not sure why.
More importantly, how do you do that?
There's, when you hover over it, you get a little camera icon. See that right there? And you just click on it and you change it.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. And it's not it's not account. It's not for your account. It's just for your client, because I opened the same account on a different computer and it wasn't, it's the old one over here, right? So this is the same account, but so I've got the old one here. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, so sorry, team chat.
It says change background image, just in case you're wondering what it says.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you just yeah. All right, chat. Sorry. So team chat. So it's living right here in my client, and I've got here the Zoom community champions, and these are from the huddles that I created a while back. This is an old team chat with Birding with Lois that we made. So yeah, so you would just need to keep your client open so you could see it. That's it.
It's really convenient if you have dual monitors or multiple monitors, then you can drag it off to one side and have it open all the time.
Interesting.
I'm still unclear. I'm in there. I've got that. I'm looking in my settings. I see team chat. How do I see the thing that you created with me in Birding with Lois?
Well, you created this, not me.
So it's not in settings?
No. This is just the chat itself. So if you just
chat itself, let me find
just go into your client.
Team chat. Oh.
Click on team chat, and then down the left-hand side, you should see.
Yeah. I don't see any. Okay, but I see where it is. I see where it is. No, it's like it's coming up brand new. Okay.
It's crazy because I just tried to do some of that and turned out I signed into Zoom Mail, whatever that is.
Oh.
You got to be careful what you click on these days.
All right.
Zoom is very much encroaching on Microsoft as far as the suite of applications that they offer.
I don't know if anyone here has a need for it. I think there's a few people here who probably do have external comms going during webinars and meetings. If you're doing more production-based Zoom things, so there's a whole conversation to be had there for people who do that.
I'm more comfortable with an in-ear private chat or group chat. I'm used to having 4 or 5 cameramen and sound guys and various other people in my head. So
yeah, me too.
During a show, so it's easier for me, and somehow I'm able to separate the noise from what I need to talk about.
You know what?
There's a practice.
Yeah.
Are you saying you can do that in Zoom now? I'm sorry. I'm losing my
that you do is a separate app.
Right. As I do it in Discord a lot.
And Discord's very good at it. You can actually have an audio conversation.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Now, I've tried to get a few people who in after hours that I wanted to talk to do a quick side video call with Discord, and they're confused as heck. Can't figure it out.
The first time I did it was
It's
with
so easy.
Jeff Wingren, because we were trying to solve this problem in like Companion or something. And it was life-changing because we could then log in and out of the meeting and you weren't in that anymore. And like, I'm going to reboot and I'm going to get out here, but we were still connected the entire time. It was amazing. We're like, what is this magic?
And
Yeah,
it
it really
is
is
so
helpful.
easy. So
It's
easy.
so easy. And you don't need to know people's phone numbers. You don't need to know anything. You just like, here, I'm just clicking on.
Well, folks, I have to bail out now because the people who are coming to work in the backyard just walked by my window. So bye. I'll see you later. If not this week, some other week.
Have a good week. Thanks, Lois, as usual. Well, now the burden's on the rest of us.
Sorry, just the Discord thing. I found that onboarding people to Discord is challenging, though.
Onboarding people to Discord is challenging. I have a group and we've had to literally have like lessons where we guide it is not as easy as like literally anything else. And then once they're there, you really have to do a lot of care and feeding of your community to get that community to work, because it doesn't like you have to really make some plans of like planting things and really cultivating it, because it just does not do it on its own.
And
I think it's because it's kind of ugly.
Yeah, I found notifications difficult, getting notifications set up, because I must have, I don't know, 10 or 12 servers, and I only want to hear from one or two of them, and I haven't been very successful at setting them up. Just those that I want notified.
The mute button is very helpful in
Is it?
Discord.
Yeah.
Although the problem is that, I mean, because I like you, I'm a member of a bunch. I just kind of join them willy nilly, and the truth is, if I don't get notified, I never check them.
Right.
So,
I mean, it is pretty amazing that you can go in folder by folder and be like, I only want to be notified for this particular conversation. But then you open up like office hours, for example. I can't possibly go into everyone that I want and don't want. Like, it's just overwhelming. So I find that like I open up that Discord and I have to really be like in a calm space because there's so many messages that I missed. I'm like, nope, you didn't miss those. You didn't want those to begin with. Just calm down. But yeah, so it's great because it does have that functionality, but it's not intuitive. It's not attractive, which we're, an community of people who like things to look good. And so I think if you're not really willing to put in the work and willing to do it, then man, it's tough. And it's hard to get newbies into that.
There's benefits to it though, but I look at Discord as just a continuation of forums. It's really just forums. Mm-hmm. And my daughter yesterday texted me and asked me something about eyeglasses. I sent her some information about eyeglasses. In texting, it's really hard to find and preserve information if you don't make an effort. In Discord, you have a catalog of information that you can go back and reference. And same thing with Zoom Team Chat. If you don't close those channels, then you can go back and look through the channels and find the relevant information. So it has benefits over instant messaging where, once 100%. It scrolls off your screen, you never see it again, right?
Yeah, it's fleeting.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. And I think that's probably why I'm still in some of the servers that I'm in. I was the last to put it into my community because they were doing pretty good on Facebook. And I was like, but I had people who were like, I just can't do Facebook anymore. And so, we finally did it. But it's hard getting everybody to like, it has so many benefits over any of the other things. But I think we're kind of getting a little fractured because everybody is competing with each other. So you've got like Google Suite, and then now Zoom is being Zoom Suite and Microsoft. And I would love to just unhook from one of those and choose one, but that isn't actually how it works, because I would choose, Zoom or Microsoft, and I'm stuck in the Google. I can't do Google Meet anymore. And I'm in a company that loves Google Meet. Like, they love it.
Trying to get in a company with Microsoft's Teams.
Yeah.
If you're not part of the company, the corporate infrastructure, being a guest on Teams is a royal pain. I actually had a senior vice president at a company that I've done business with before, and they've put me in as a guest, but apparently I fell out of guest mode, and there was something really urgent that he wanted to talk about. We had to do it in a phone call.
Oh my.
I
Old
mean,
school.
of all things, I got the job, but apparently I had the job before the phone call, but that's neither here nor there. But I was a little embarrassed that I could not get it. And I count very much on the dual window concept because I have an active speaker in the teleprompter.
Mhm.
And once I take the Microsoft Teams and I put it in that window, it's now too small for me to use. And it's aggravating. You get spoiled in Zoom.
Well, you do, because the thing that spoils me for Meet is for Google is you have to set your sound settings and select all of your stuff from outside the meeting before you jump in. So if your computer has switched cameras or switched microphones, you can't hear. But not only can you not hear, you can't solve the problem inside. You have to go out, fix it, and then come back in. That is so dumb to me. I can't even, I don't understand.
Yep.
I think there's the concept of culture, corporate culture, your friends and their culture, and all these companies are trying to be the place that you go to. So Facebook is probably for older people now, and young people don't really care about Facebook. So that's cultural in a sense.
Yeah.
And then what does your employer offer you if you're a Microsoft corporation or a Google corporation or a Zoom corporation? But all these companies are competing because of brand loyalty, and what you know is usually what you stay with, right?
Can I just thank you, Frank, as I'm scrolling Facebook here, that you called me old. I appreciate that.
Remember, I got 20 years on you.
I include myself in that demographic.
I'm also included in your demographic, my friend.
I don't think anyone's going to accuse me of being 17, but I don't think young people are flocking to Facebook the way they are to other platforms. So it is cultural or demographics as well, right?
Well, and you do have to kind of, like, I couldn't get rid of the Facebook group. I had to kind of just expand to where we could reach more people, which is fine. But it also feels a little fractured-y. Like, you know, like even my own life feels very fractured. Like I'm going from, there's so many things I'm adding on, and, you know, the techie girl in me loves it because I like finding new things. And, you know, I'm delighted when I'm excited about something like as mundane as being able to replace Spotlight and dump your whole stage with the next person as without any special powers. I think that's fantastic. So I love that kind of stuff, but, you know, not everybody apparently shares my love.
I get caught in signing up for things that, you know, my 7-day free preview. And then all of a sudden, wait a minute, I don't remember I signed up for that. The latest is a within Zoom teleprompter.
Ooh.
And the name of it escapes me. So I have to click over here. And it is, has anybody worked on Vodium? Vodium. It's supposed, and I haven't been able to get it to work in the 2 of the 7 days of free, but it was described to me as a teleprompter that could be used within Zoom, and it's transparent. If you can't do an external script and put it into the teleprompter, then it's no use to me. If I have to do all the editing and inserting in their app,
Yeah.
and that is what it appears to me.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll quit before the 7 days is up. I did put a reminder in. David, you're experimenting with something. What have you got?
No, I pulled up Vodium.
Oh,
As soon as you said
you're as
that.
bad as I am.
I wrote it down to look at later.
Yeah, no,
Well,
it's
let's get on a team chat so you can tell me what you think of it, because I found it very confusing.
really.
Discord.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Discord, in our ZTK Discord.
I use I don't even know what it's called. It's just a teleprompter app, and I just put it on top of my Zoom window.
I use Teleprompter Pro,
Yeah.
and I like that. I don't need to see myself when I'm doing it. So I guess you would do that if you're narrating a video or something, but even at that, you don't want to script.
I keep gallery view underneath. So, because I want to have an eye on the folks I'm talking to so that when they all fall asleep, that I know.
You know.
So I can stop. Yeah, this one's just called teleprompter. I don't know. I mean, it's fine, whatever. And I have it connected to, I have a foot pedal that just will stop and start it. I tried one of the voice activated ones that I didn't like that.
I didn't have success with that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, look, the idea of the Vodium thing is great. The problem with Vodium is that it's putting the text over the people, not over your camera, which defeats the whole, right? I mean, the whole idea here is that Vodium sits on top of your Zoom window.
Right.
Which doesn't help. If you're, as I was watching, there's this great presentation coach who had a video out today named Ray Franklin. And he was talking about how people often are looking down at their, at their participants. Well, having your teleprompter over your participants doesn't really help.
The other thing that I wasn't able to figure out with Vodium is that you don't want the teleprompter script to be the full width, because even in this small screen that I'm in, you can see me shifting. So I moved the teleprompter script in as narrow as I can make it so that I can get the full, and I didn't see how I could shrink that. It was either this or something else. Now, you may have some luck with it, but I couldn't get rid of the CAC on the other side. I didn't spend much time with it, but it just one of those things I've signed up for. Tamara will give the final word on it in Discord someday.
No,
you know what? I guess what I don't understand is, why would I pay? It's, what is it, $15 a month?
Yes.
Why would I pay $15 a month when I can just buy an app that does the same thing?
Yeah,
I guess
for sure
that's what I'm not
$15 a
understanding.
month for that.
Yeah, I use Teleprompter Pro. It was a one-time purchase. I can put it on multiple machines.
Yeah.
And I can edit and import and export and what have you. They have an interesting story. It's two women that got together and had never done anything like this, and they were excited about it. There's a good backstory about it. And that's what drove me to it. It was worth taking a look at. But $15 a month, I don't think I use a teleprompter more than one, maybe 2 or 3 days a quarter, because I'm supposed to be able to know what I'm talking about. I'm not supposed to read it. The script for the Zoomtopia thing had to be 2 minutes, and it had to be approved by a number of people. Believe it or not, they needed it in advance. And so that was done as a part of it. I have 2 other videos to post for that, so keep your eye open. One is from Dr. Graham Barrett, who is the inventor of the here to mentioned Ivy. He's got a very good story. He's an eye surgeon, and he's got a lot of knowledge about eye scan and viewability and things like that he posted into that. And the other is a Dr. Tamara, this one's Tamara Elliott. She is a telemedicine expert, and on YouTube, she's got a fabulous, like almost a 1.5 minute clip about how important it is that doctors look their patients in the eye. And it was the cornerstone of the presentation that we made at Zoomtopia.
The device looks super cool. Not gonna lie.
Did anyone see the Meta thing a couple of weeks ago or whatever, where
I did.
Zuckerberg was a avatar? Like, I do a lot of stuff with digital and virtual reality and augmented reality stuff, and they digitized his face. They scanned it, and then it looked like he was there. He may have been looking off screen or reading a teleprompter, but because it's an avatar, a human looking avatar, and that technology is only getting better and better, you know, Zoom has that right now to a very slight effect. I don't know if you use your avatars in Zoom, and you can make your own avatar and try to make it look like yourself, like Nintendo or something, and it mimics human blinking, and your mouth moves in sync with. But I mean, this is a way past that, and I wonder if Zoom and all the other technologies will start to gravitate towards scanning yourself and then having an avatar in the box. And that way, making eye contact may not be as important because the avatar will maintain.
Right, but in this case, it could be that I could be sampling your voice.
Definitely.
And yeah, I did run across one today that, and I'm not going to mention it because we're all going to sign up for it, and I haven't tested it enough. I don't want to be like the crack dealer.
First one's
free, right? At where you can write the script and leave a short voice sample, and then you can pick what language it's in, what kind of whether you want a male or a female or a tall person or a short person. I always wanted a slim person, but it was very convincing as an example.
It's funny because I first learned of avatars in 1995 when I worked for TV Guide Online, where we were creating an internal kind of studio system. And one of the cool features was that you could log on and create an avatar, and they were pretty rudimentary, but you could create hair, you could create, add all this stuff to it, whatever. It just doesn't feel like we've gone that much further. We're on the verge of doing more, like we saw a couple weeks ago in Meta, but it feels like it's been a long time coming. It's not brand new.
No, Max Headroom, brand new. But yeah, if you're old enough to remember Max Headroom, but it is Unreal Engine and all the other things, like David's showing it now, but I mean, 5-10 years from now.
No, it's so cool. But it was just funny when I was watching that, I was like, when we kind of threw that out, we closed it within like a week and then ran to, a web-based version where everything became static and boring. But it was originally designed as almost like a sim. Like, it was designed with the same people who did the Sims, that we would have like this, you'd go in and you'd see all parts of the magazine inside. And so it's interesting to me, like we've been waiting for a super long time, and now it's really starting to kind of show up. So I wasn't a big fan of any of the Meta things to begin with, but it was way more impressive than I thought it was. Like things have really started to kind of come along and, in kind of exciting ways. So I don't know.
David, what did you think?
I'm freaked out by this.
It's freaky, right?
I saw it also, but this is just.
It brings not being able to trust what you see online to a whole new.
Right.
Well, that's happening everywhere, but I can see it solving certain transmission issues and stuff. If you don't have the best bandwidth, if you don't have the best camera, if you don't have the technical knowledge, and you take the time to get a high quality scan of yourself, then all that stuff can be coming from the server. And if your camera's a little janky, if you don't know how to set up a shot, if your internet's not the best, the transmission's coming from the server in the middle, not necessarily from you. You could probably get by with a less robust internet connection. Like I could see lots of ways to harness this down the road.
But that's also the crux of the SAG contract problem.
Oh yeah,
right?
Definitely.
Because that is exactly what studios have done. They've just scanned an extra and then used them in perpetuity. I
just watched the new Indiana Jones, and they de-aged Harrison Ford in that role for parts. Yeah. And there are some actors who are violently opposed to that, and other actors who are embracing it. And it's interesting what these technologies are changing, how we view and how we work, and what we consider fair or not fair use, right?
Right. Yeah. And Indiana Jones was a perfect example because it was brilliantly done. Like it was seamless. You had no idea.
Well, they put hundreds of hours into it. It didn't just fall off the shelf.
But
no, not at all.
That technology is also, those hundreds of hours are what is making things like this to be able to be used by like regular people, right? So that's where
they're leading the way, and then we get the benefits down, further down. But if you know what a volume is, a lot of actors who are young actors are going into volumes and getting scanned, so that when they're 50 and 60 years old and they need to do a flashback sequence, they can say, in my portfolio, I have all that stuff. Like, what was the movie with De Niro and Pesci and all those guys? They sort of like Goodfellas Part 3 or 4. The de-aging process wasn't really that well done. So there's some criticism, but it's getting better all the time. So this technology could come into place in web conferencing tools like Zoom, right? So that's why we're sort of talking about it right now.
That's interesting because if they're doing a flashback, they always either do it with makeup, extensive makeup, or they look for a secondary actor to be the youth. But that is an interesting way to expand rather than cut back on your availability. That's
definitely. Last year, Zoom had avatars, but they were bunnies and foxes and little silly cartoon animals, which would probably be appropriate and keep the interest of children in school during the pandemic. But for serious business conversations, I don't want to use the Zoom avatars right now. They're not photorealistic. They're gimmicky looking. I'm sure they'll get better though.
I think I hate to interrupt, but I'd like to have everybody think of Frank as a bunny. All right, we're done.
The problem with this whole thing for me is that
thanks, Frank.
Here we go.
I've done it.
That's actually a great avatar for you.
That's Frank Zappa.
That's a good one. The problem with all this for me is that fundamentally what Zoom offers me is real connection. Ironically, and is that it's real. So I don't want to look at someone's avatar.
That's a very unique perspective to you, though. Not everybody uses Zoom the way you use Zoom or feels the way you feel about that. And it's a fair comment, and I think a lot of people would agree with you, but not everybody would agree with you.
Oh, of course not.
And I think, Zoom is looking at it from a broader perspective, right?
When I begin my coaching, the first thing that I tell people is this is indeed an intimate medium. When it's you and I talking to each other, if I'm talking to a group of people and I can see you and you can see me and we're making eye contact, this is as intimate a conversation as we're allowed to have for hundreds of miles, thousands, tens of thousands of miles away. And so if you want to be a good presenter in this medium, you have to treat it as the intimate medium. And if you want to be believed and keep people focused so that the rest of the distractions go away, you have to treat it as an intimate medium. If you don't, you're going to lose your audience.
Can I give you a counterpoint to that?
Sure. Absolutely.
One of the reasons people don't turn their cameras on or want to use avatars, just one example is social economic status. If you're poor and you're joining a university course or some sort of online training, and maybe you don't live in the best circumstances, it's like having people in your home, and maybe you're living in a car and you're trying to better yourself. You don't want people seeing not everybody has the same money or affluence or advantages. There are real reasons to have ways to still use Zoom and other tools, but not have everyone see your surroundings.
Absolutely. And I've been told that the most compelling one was a young woman that I was coaching, and she was using this horrible blurred background. She said, well, we have to. I live in a small apartment in New York. My roommate is working in the same room, and Zoom gives me that opportunity to be able to work from home under those circumstances. And so absolutely, I recognize exactly what you're talking about, Frank. But as a leader of the meeting, you want to show some. I have just a plain background. So if you can arrange to set your camera in a corner of a room with no pictures and distractions on it, I think you're going to be a better window. If you don't want to, wear something decent with a Zoom Test Kitchen shirt, then turn your camera off. But I think,
definitely.
I think that's a challenge.
I agree with you. I just think for some people, it's the difference between either participating or not participating at all. And I think it's a shame if people are trying to get help or better their education or do whatever they're trying to do. If that's their only choice, then I think you have to respect that.
I totally agree. We have a friend of mine that's here now, Gerald, who prefers to sit in his comfy chair and participate with his camera off, with the blurry and everything on. And I respect that. But we're just glad that you're here. Tamara, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I'll say too, because the group that I'm my work environment, it's very common in our Teams meetings where people don't turn their cameras on. And I've found that I generally turn my camera on, but I find when I go to those meetings, I don't turn my camera on, and there's actually leverage in when you do turn your camera on, right? So if I'm always a voice in the dark along with everybody else, but like yesterday I was in a meeting with, our overseas vendor, and turning my camera on actually then gives a different sense of power if most of the meeting has their camera off. So there's good and bad things for both of them. And I find when I go to those meetings, I very rarely turn my camera on, because then I don't have to worry about if I'm in the right room with the right camera and all the, I could just do it from wherever. But I think that there's a difference in terms of, I think both are valid. At first I was like, you have to turn your camera on, but now I'm kind of like, no, actually you don't. You can still get, you can still have a connectivity, because the internet's been the community, and connectivity has been the basis of what has made this medium work even before video was involved. So like when it was the old forums and the IRC and all of that, you became very, very close with people based on their words. You never saw them. You didn't know what they looked like. You survived net splits together, and, saw a bunch of text fly over your screen. So I think that the heart of this, whether your camera's on or off, is that it is a very connective tool. And there are a lot of people who don't feel that way about it. They hate it. They don't like going on it. I've always just loved the connective aspects of it. I loved the fact that I almost liked better in a way, the old IRC and forum boards where you didn't know what anybody looked like. You had absolutely no bearing of making connection with them other than what they were typing in the screen. But community is something that has always been the strength of the internet. It's become so many other things, and some of them are good and some of them are not good. But that's definitely one of the things that has been really elevated in the pandemic, because it forced everybody to go play in this digital space, as opposed to just those of us who are technically geeks and would do that anyways.
Gerald, do you feel connected?
I feel connected because I've been on these ZTK meetings for 6-9 months now or so. And so I feel connected. I am in my big comfy chair, which is not photo friendly. But I'd probably feel more connected if I was sharing my video.
We're just glad to have you, and looking forward to next week's event. Well, this is good. I appreciate this conversation. We all have a different perspective of it, and that's fine. And I believe it's probably based on the circumstances. In my case, I'm teaching presenters. And so as a presenter, you have to have a certain command of the image and the sound and what have you, including the graphics. I'm really big on saying, listen, you don't need to go down into the little drain hole of video circle to talk to your slides. You can talk to your slides if you save room. It's pretty simple to do.
That's a great slide.
It
really makes your point so effectively.
I just hate the little circle down in the corner. You can't find the person. You get no expression from them, and you lose contact.
Word and Office products and PowerPoint, people don't know how to use them effectively. Just because the word processor became available to the masses didn't mean everyone turned into Hemingway. PowerPoint is one of the most abused things on the planet, and what you just showed is very powerful. Like, you're living what you're saying, and it's so true.
I often quote a Wall Street Journal article of about 5 or 6 years ago of the two guys that invented PowerPoint, and they've lamented it almost immediately for 2 points. The first is when it comes bundled in a Microsoft package, everybody has it. everybody's a PowerPoint expert and they're not graphic. They're not. I get involved with CEOs who probably spend more time on their graphics than they do on their speech because their graphics are really handouts. Well, handouts are not what we want in this meeting. And oftentimes, even in a live meeting, my least favorite thing is when there's a jillion bullet points and they're in tiny type. I know you're not going to be able to read this, so I'll read it to you. And they turn their back on the audience and then they go through the list of points. And that makes me nuts.
I've sat through thousands and thousands and thousands of presentations with PowerPoint, and most people don't know how to use it. And if you want to create something as a handout, make a separate version of it that you allow people to download and make one for your presentation. Don't try to make it be both things. It's not going to work.
Right. And it's that simple. Well, I appreciate your comment about that. I'm very happy to be in this space of trying to help people do better communicating in this little small box that we live in.
Well, I think the Zoom Test Kitchen is a wonderful place for that. We're all helping each other and teaching each other, and you're always one of the thought leaders here, I think.
Well, we enjoy it. Let's jump to Mike, who's struggling with getting his other software up and running. Tell me, you're in and out and in and out. I see that. Most people don't. Tell us your vMix experience.
Well, right now, officially, vMix is actually, as a matter of fact, half hour before I joined, go figure, there was an update from vMix. So good old vMix did it to me again. The update, unfortunately, is working. I am connecting to this meeting without any issues, so that's not a problem. Problem I'm running into now is that the audio and video is not being sent properly from Zoom, and there was a vMix Zoom plugin update that I'm doing. So I'm in the midst of doing a fresh uninstall and fresh reinstall of vMix. So I'll be back.
This is all beta though, right, Mike?
Absolutely. Yes. And so I am severely playing with stuff that is not for production use.
You're on the bleeding edge right now, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it only came out Tuesday. That's how bleeding edge we're talking about here. It was just announced at IBC, I believe, the trade show in Europe, in Amsterdam. So yes, so that's how bleeding edge I am. And yes, Zoom is working. I was able to test with it with the original version, but there has been bug fixes since. And I don't know if it's my PC or didn't like some of the bug fixes, or so I'm going to do a clean uninstall and reinstall.
Being a Windows person, you've had those surprise Windows updates where your mic assignments are all wrong and your picture assignments are all wrong. That's just something we live with Windows, unless you're in deep control of it. So
yeah, well, absolutely.
We wish you luck.
Thanks. And Companion also did that to me too, with the latest version of upgrading to Companion too. All of a sudden, certain buttons were not working properly because they decided to be all of a sudden question marks, which means that, it has no idea where that functionality disappeared to, because either the plugin, the module, as they're called in Companion, changed, or the code for main Companion caused the module not to be happy anymore. But yeah, that part I did fix. So the Companions, I'm using Companion at the latest today, so that's been perfectly fine. But vMix is the only one causing me a bit of grief today.
We have friends at Zoom who are often listening, and I believe Andy would tell you that they're doing a lot of work within Zoom to bring things like Production Studio and other things to within the Zoom system. So we're not dealing with 7 different software sources to be able to put this event on. So that's 2 cents. What else have you got that you guys want to talk about? We're barely into our the end of our first hour, and I have very little extra that I can offer. How about you guys? Jump in. Seeing none?
I have a quick question.
Good.
I know that this has been talked about on all the times that I wasn't here, because you guys are much more advanced on this than I am. The nifty trick that we've seen several times at Zoomtopia, where they allow people to get into people in person to log into the meeting with their phone through a QR code. Is that only available in events right now? Is that where that's hanging out?
You're asking a great question. I asked the same question, I think, when we did our Zoomtopia review post analysis, and Andy actually in the Discord explained how they're doing it. And yeah, it's a special app you can download for free, but it's you have to have a Zoom Events license to use it. I wish they would bring that to meetings, because we do a lot of hybrid meetings.
I read Andy's thing in the thing, and I went to the Zoom page, and when I was reading, as often as the case, for as much as I love Zoom, the directions are not always as easy for even smart people to understand. So, but it seemed as though at the bottom it talked about how to get in a meeting. So I feel like it might be something that is on its way. And
I got the impression that it was for webinars that had an events license. And I think, this is just my personal opinion, Zoom puts a lot of their coolest stuff in Zoom events and Zoom sessions as an attractor, so that you'll sign up for those tools, like the green rooms and different things like that. But I really would be able to make a lot of use of that if it was available for just regular plain old meetings, because a lot of people are trying to do hybrid. And it would be, and the thing that always happens is hybrid is you tell everyone in the audience, yes, you can turn on your phone or your laptop, but please mute everything.
Right.
And they never mute themselves, and it causes all kinds of trouble with audio feedback. If you could tell them to launch a specific app that didn't even have the ability to put camera or audio on, but they could still participate in Q&A, polls, chat, that would be fabulous for meetings for hybrid. But absolutely, I don't know if their incentive is there to do that or not. Well, I mean,
it made me hope that it ends up being something like the Spotlight feature that is, you could only do with OSC before, and now you can kind of do it in the meeting, that maybe eventually it will migrate its way into there. Because I do think that I've looked at events, and but the truth of the matter is I'm doing all of that already in basic Zoom.
Sure.
That it doesn't justify the license.
Sure. I think what I've seen Zoom do, though, is those things sometimes trickle down into like Q&A was never part of meetings, right? And now we have it in meetings. So I'm hoping eventually some of that good stuff trickles into funny because I do think
the description of it makes it sound like you can do it, and then I was playing it. I was like,
I'm not certain. I might be wrong, but
I can't do it. So that was the thing that I literally spent 2 days, the last 2 days, kind of reading and rereading and looking for it. And I'm like, I just don't.
If you want to test it sometime, give me a holler somehow, and I'd be happy to play with it and see with you.
Yeah, I'm all. It's kind of crazy.
I do have a Zoom Events license, but I don't want to do it. Like, I see the value of it in events. I really want it to work in meetings.
I want it to work in meetings too, and I have a Zoom. I've got 4 Pro accounts for Zoom, and then I also use Grant Whitehead's site and Blue Melnick's Obvio, and so I'm trying to move people to Obvio just because I can control the front end of their experience getting in a lot better, even though I lose some things, like I can't use Companion in Obvio without a major license, which I'm not going to do because my events just don't warrant it. They don't warrant me spending that money already, but it makes my life better. So yeah, I'm hoping that some of these things do kind of trickle down, because hybrid, trying to explain to people why hybrid is not ideal is not going to happen. So now it's got a mission to make it more ideal.
I think the problem with hybrid is sometimes it's unavoidable. You can't always convince decision makers that you're right, even though you are technically right, and it's the worst of both worlds. But sometimes it's unavoidable. So what can we do to make hybrid events more successful and smoother? And if it does trickle down, that'll be fantastic.
And I don't think an event license for many of the meetings that require hybrid, like I'm doing, the thing I was teaching people on how to spotlight, that's a hybrid event where some people are on stage and then as a group, and then there are people within the Zoom meeting, and sometimes they're on the stage at the same time, which is so angering. But it's tough because we're all technically savvy and we're all continuing to learn new and exciting ways of doing things. But it's a heavy lift. You can't just, even if you're technically savvy, I'm putting some time aside, I know you guys are too, to say, I'm going to learn this. That isn't the case for most people. So most of the people that I have on my team are not technical people. Like the fact that I can get them onto their computer is a big miracle. So the more that, things get easier to kind of get a team to do, then the better these kind of events are going to be. But I've been working on an event where they're like, well, no one, it looks fine. No one's complained to me. I said, they're not complaining at the moment because we're at the beginning of it. But as they continue to go to more and more events that do hybrid a little more successfully, then your event is going to look very unsuccessful. And so bridging that gap, I think, is what I'm looking for.
Doing hybrids works in certain situations. And it's, in my opinion, it's usually when they don't want to exclude someone who used to come to the meetings in the meeting room and they're not able to anymore. And whether that's because they got old, they lost transportation, they've moved away, they're at a distance. And so I have two hybrid things that I work with here in town. One is the Quaker meeting, and that's pretty easy because it's a silent meeting. And so we just have a monitor sitting at the height of a head someplace around the room, and people glance over and they can see who's on the screen. So it works pretty well. The harder one is the genealogy club. And in that one, there's a room full of seniors who are sitting in the meeting room who do not use Zoom, but they are used to seeing a person standing in the front of the room and projecting their slides on a screen. So what we've done, whether the person is in the room or remote, is we have a computer hooked up to that projector that is also hooked up to Zoom. And so when they're remote, they share a screen and it shows up on that projector screen up in the front of the room, and everybody's happy. And when they're not sharing screen, then we've got their face up there and everybody's happy. But it's not going to be fancy. It's going to be pretty simple. So getting the sound to work so they could hear it in the room and on Zoom, and there not be any squealing was, it took a little training, but they're doing good.
Audio is always the hardest part.
That is the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
I had a discussion with a client that was starting, considering going to a hybrid meeting, and asked a bunch of questions about the technology and the production. And I brought up something that I think is a new thought, at least for me, and that is to weigh how much production you put into the supporting the remote as opposed to the live audience. In this particular case, it was just going to be 20 people in a hotel ballroom, live, full production, 4 or 5 people, presenters moving on and off stage, but there were 1,000 people watching. And I tried to explain to them that it should be proportional. So if the greater proportion is remote, then produce it as a remote event. If the greater proportion is local, and I think you have to make that decision. Tamara, you do hybrids.
Yeah. So
how does that strike you?
So what I have been, the group that is doing the hybrid things right now is, interestingly, the theater folks. So it's a producing group out of New York, but they became much more global in the pandemic, and we moved a lot of things online very successfully. But now we're back, and so in person. So people want to start doing some meetings, but they don't really want to lose that remote audience, because that audience is now a crux of who the organization is. So they want to try to do these meeting things. And what I found is a couple of things that are really interesting. even though this is a theater group, these are theater people, these are Broadway level people, they understand how it is to produce a live event. When they think of Zoom, because it is so simple, they don't think they need a staff for that. They kind of think Zoom can just happen. And so explaining to them that, look, I'm a producer in theater and live events, and I'm a producer in digital events. My production team for digital events is almost double what I can get away with in a theater. I can use 6 people in a theater. I can use 4 people in a theater, 1 person in a theater. I can't do that in, as well. So what I've had to do is train them that they're actually producing 2 events favoring the Zoom audience because they also want to live stream. So if you're going to do any kind of live streaming, then you do need to favor your digital side, because that is what is going to be your live stream in the barest of bones of how they're doing this. And we're doing this with, shockingly, the discontinued Meta projector thing.
Facebook portal?
Yes, Facebook portal, which has been discontinued for a reason, right? They're no longer even updating it. So I'm getting to a point where we're going to move away from that and kind of do a real setup for them to be a little bit better. But one, I've had a hard time finding people in this community who are interested in learning in Zoom. And even the young folks, I'm like, guys, if you are coming of age right now, this is where you should be putting your time and energy and learning how to do these things, because you are going to become valuable. And this is what's going to take you into the next version of theater, of live events, of your life. This is the same way that it was when we were coming up, and, various IRC, and then, all the way through, Web 1.0 and Web 2.0 were things that we were learning. We were getting classes on Microsoft Word when we moved from WordPerfect, my favorite program, even in DOS. But it's hard to get people to, one, understand the technicalities and capabilities of what you can do, what's possible, but then also just seeing that you have to staff it the way that you would. So the 2 kids I was teaching today, I literally wrote it out for them. You are the on-site stage manager. You're the on-stage stage manager. Your duties are in red. And you are the Zoom stage manager, and your duties are in blue. And you work together when you do a tech check, just like we can't call it a meeting. We have to call it a production. You're going to do a tech check. Here are the things you're going to do. Someone's going to walk across the stage. The Zoom stage manager, you're going to listen. Can you hear it in Zoom? Can you see them accurately? The on-site stage manager, you're going to walk in the back of the house. Are they lit? So you really are doing 2 productions. You are not doing one. And I think that when we think of hybrid, we think it's just like 1.5 or half, but it's 2 things. Sorry, I took over at the time. David.
You're asking way, way too much of folks. I just opened YouTube to check our stream, and this came up on as something I might want to look at. I have no idea why. So this is the city of Wildwood. I don't know where that is. Their Administration and Public Works Committee. I mean, so that's the first camera they have. And then when someone comes in, we get that.
Of course, the obligatory ceiling fan.
I mean, like, this is a government agency. And you want them to have people to help them run a Zoom?
Well, I mean, listen, it does. It's not going to look.
This is like
pretty.
birding with Lois. It's a bird's eye camera of the entire room.
Absolutely.
I object to that.
But
remember that this is a governmental agency. They are required to provide certain things. They are required to record certain things. And so they're going to get minimal because they have to do something. And that meets minimal. Well, sort of.
Right. It's like watching, some of the House committees, and you look like you're watching a VHS. I mean, that's what the quality of, I don't know.
It's about what people value.
Yeah, that's exactly the thing that I was telling folks today because they were like, what if we mess up? I said, you can't mess up in this group, because the truth of the matter is, at the moment, I said, this is the place for you to learn and make mistakes, because at the moment, they're perfectly okay with that. We just tell them ahead of time, we're like, listen, we're trying something new today, which the thing they're trying new is that instead of doing what they have been doing, which is flip the camera around into a dark space to pick up audience questions, having the audience move and have someone with an iPhone shooting them directly, asking their question into the thing so that they can be part of the Zoom room, and which is projected into the live audience screen. That is like the lowest rent version of what we're talking about. And it's going to be
So this would be a bad example.
But it's a bad example. Again, it's a bad example if that's what people's expectations are, right? All of our expectations become like Zoom test kitchen and office hours kind of expectations, right? Because we hang out in that area. So when we go to anything lesser than that, no matter what the meeting it is, we're like, oh my gosh, this could be so much better. But if that's not where people are, the tiniest amount, like I've had to kind of pace myself and say, what do I introduce to this group? We've been doing these for 3 years to make things different that is going to be manageable and noticeable. Because if I introduce something too technical too soon and it fails, they're going to be done with that, right? They're not going to play. So it is, what is possible and what people do is going to be completely, how it's always been. Like, that's not going to change. But we just have to keep saying, this is, I had to say today to these guys, I'm like, listen, when we say meeting, that is not what we're doing here. As soon as we have speakers and guests and an in-audience panel and an Zoom panel, you aren't talking about a meeting. A meeting is where we all come together and talk about the agenda for the day. Like, that's a meeting. What you showed a picture of, David, though, that is a meeting, right? That's a meeting. And if someone were looking at that meeting, that would look like what their mind's eye thinks of if they were just in a conference room, whether there was a camera there or not. And very likely, those meetings have had that kind of camera set up prior to Zoom. They've always done some kind of recording in that way so that people had access if it's a government building, right? So it's kind of like school board meetings are recorded, right? They look like school board meetings, right?
I've seen some awesome ones.
Absolutely.
It's what you value. It's what your decision makers value. It's what they understand or don't understand. There's a lot you can do to, I'm hearing audio. There's a lot you can do with a limited budget if you care enough. Just where you put the camera, what you do with the lighting, how you frame, but you're fighting ignorance quite often, or people say to me quite often, I coach hundreds of people on how to do this. I give them all the relevant information, and then they go back to their easy, sloppy, horrible habits, and it's a matter of actually caring enough. But then they say they care about engagement. If you care about engagement, then you would do more.
Yep. One of the things that we've done, and I keep mentioning the Quaker meeting because I've been their tech person for a while. So what we've done is we got the monitor, we bought a laptop computer, we got the Yeti Nano microphone, we got this. And one of the guys in the meeting built a cart, which is the right size to hold everything. And there's on the cart, there's a little ledge out one side so that when you're using it, you pull everything out onto the ledge and you can type and whatever. When we're done, all we have to do is flip up this little slot, turn the power off on the computer, shove everything back in there, lock the slot, and then in the back, put the monitor in and unplug it from the wall, which means that having done all the testing and made sure that it functions, we now have a setup that lots of people could use to make a hybrid meeting happen at a decent quality. It's not good. It's not, I don't have a PTZ up there because, they don't want that. So, but anyway, when you get done with this one, I have another topic.
Oh, we're done. If I can vote, we're done. Please, Lois, we all breathe a breath of fresh air when you returned after whatever the heck you were doing to help us bring this
I
back
went
to
out
life.
there and the folks came and they're working in the yard, and I was trying to clear a path, and I shouldn't have done that. I got a limb fell on my head. I'm fine. Okay, so when I work with people, whether it's one-on-one or a bunch of people, one of the things that is always the most challenging is getting it so that the audio levels of the different people in the different places are consistent, or at least close enough so that when I play it on the radio, it doesn't sound really weird. Now, I'm part of After Hours. I can pop in and I can use their meters and I can, test it out and see what levels are and stuff like that. Do any of you know of a place where there are meters available to someone who is not registered with that group? In other words, it would be nice if the person I'm going to interview, I can just say, okay, come on now, go to this place and let's see what your meters are. Frank, you're nodding your head.
I'd have to look through my bookmarks. There are online meters you can use on a web browser, but I mean, you can tell Zoom to manage your audio. There's a setting in Zoom to manage your audio. It's not going to be broadcast perfect, but it'll be a lot better than someone who doesn't know how to set a level at all.
I share that answer, Frank, completely. Zoom is designed their audio for that purpose, and you have to give them that. Some of us choose not to because we go to other extremes to have decent audio, but that's would have been my suggestion as well.
There's a checkbox you can turn on, but each person has to turn it on.
Yeah, that was my next question. There's nothing in the meeting that I have to enable because this is all an individual setting thing. So when I get them ready to do their interview with me on Zoom, then together I can walk them through how to change that setting. And you're talking about the one that says automatically adjust levels?
Yes.
Okay.
But Lois, I would also suggest that in your sheet that you prepare these people with, you tell them that before they connect with you in the basic Zoom open frame, you can click on the gear and test your speaker and your microphone. And you should do that every time you go. I do that every time before joining. I want to know that I have the right speaker selected, the right microphone selected, and it should be a routine that I suggest your interviewees are expected to go through. And one of the things is the checkbox to say, have Zoom control your audio.
Another thing I tell people is your environment plays a big factor in your audio. So if you're sitting at your kitchen table and your fridge is humming, but you've lived there for 25 years and you don't even hear that sound anymore.
Or you have a cat.
So you can't turn your fridge off. Well, what you can do, the laws will be fine. What you can do is, if you can't fix your environment, go to a different environment. Go to a different room in the house. That costs nothing.
Right, but people are not aware of ambient noise. It's been my experience because they are
You're absolutely right.
That is their environment and they're used to that noise.
The human mind filters it out. But if you record your environment and play it back in a set of headphones, you will definitely hear things in your home or wherever you're used to being that you didn't even realize were happening.
Tamara, what do you tell your people to set their sound at?
So I actually do tech checks with everybody the week before if it's that kind of an event. I do one event that's an audition event where I take 200 actors and put them in front of 65 Broadway producers and casting directors. And I literally spend the week prior to that doing lighting design for them. I can light anybody's room with a desk lamp and their wall, right? So I set their camera level, I set their lighting, I give them kind of that same pyramid that I know Alex has used, I know David has used, that here are the order of operations of what I think that you can spend. And I'm a super advocate of being on panels with these people specifically to say, this is why you should do this. You should, same thing you do, where it's like, you need to understand that if you want me to hire you for something, then that is a whole game that you have to understand how to manage your space and your time. So I don't have a specific sound level stuff. I often have, because again, I'm using the most bare bones of everything. These are people who are I can't get them to not use their cell phone, which makes me cry every day. But it's, you have to, if it's something where they have to look good and sound good, then you have to do tech checks with them. And you need to take time to say, this is where your camera should be. It's stupid things like take your laptop and put it on a box so that your camera from your laptop is facing down if you don't have a regular camera. So everybody can look good. No one should not look good. Even Zoom has a lighting option. If you're in dark light, no one should look like a serial killer anymore. No one should be like sitting there in a hoodie in the dark because
I see, David, but
you can.
I want to jump on that. $14 worth of light bulbs from Daylight light bulbs. Put one on each side of your computer. You don't have to spend $1,000. You can spend $7 and look so much better.
Target clip lamp.
Close your drapes. Don't have a super bright light behind. There's so many practical things you can do
just
to
take
sound
any
and look
light
better
and shoot it at your ceiling. That's my first thing.
It's interesting because these people, they've been taught in their acting class how to dress for the audition and to make your hair, and be dressed for the part and to make your best impression. But they've not been taught how to make their best impression here. David, what's your contribution?
I just want to share for Lois that, this is, so you can see on my screen, it's not registering now because I don't have my audio running through it, but this is WLM meters. It's just running through, what is this? Audio Hijack on my Mac. And so you could just have this on your computer. You just set it up to hear all the Zoom noise and then screen share if you want, and just have people talk and then they can see their own.
Is there a cost for this?
I have Audio Hijack and I have used the meters. It seemed as though it was hearing me differently than it was hearing the people coming over on Zoom. Maybe I wasn't setting it properly in order to be able to, but the two didn't compare. I mean, it didn't seem like they could.
Did you mute yourself? Mute your mic while they were setting their level?
And they muted their mic while I was speaking.
What people don't know is Lois is a radio person and hosts a radio show, so she's very aware of all these things.
Can't hear much anymore, but I'm very aware of it.
I don't know enough about this to tell you, how to fix that problem. I just know that I've had more than a few times when I've been on a Zoom and I've just popped this up, and I do find that if you don't want to if for whatever reason you don't want to let Zoom handle it, that the visual is helpful. Because I'm one of those folks. I know, Frank, you said that if you kind of record your space, you can hear. I don't know. I'm more of a visual guy than an auditory guy, and so the listening doesn't really work for me. But if I know that my job is to hit 24 or 20 or 22 or whatever, or to be in a certain range, and I can see it, that's really helpful to me.
Yeah, I have a lot of clients, if you want to call them that would never do what you're doing right now. But one thing I always tell people is get a reasonably decent set of headphones and always audition your audio after you record it and play it back at half of your computer's ability to play. And do that every time, because that means you're doing something in a reproducible fashion that's scientific to some extent. And if your audio sounds good at halfway, it's probably going to sound good for people who have stronger speakers, weaker speakers, because if you have a range of intelligibility at 50%, most people's variations in their systems will tolerate that. And if you have to turn yourself up to sound good, then you're recording yourself too low. If you have to turn yourself down because it's too loud or it's clipping, then you're recording yourself too high. So if you have it in the middle and it sounds good, that's a good rule of thumb. It's not broadcast standard, but for a lot of people, they're not going to understand broadcast standard.
Can you explain a little bit more, David? Just because I've wanted to use WLM meters and I just haven't had a chance to kind of play around with it. What do I need to make that a reality in my life?
So I'm one of those guys who sets things up, doesn't pay attention to how I did it, and then doesn't ever touch it again because it won't work again. So I'm not sure I can really.
Okay.
I mean, I can show you what I've got here. So basically, WLM meters is a plugin that you attach to Audio Hijack. So this, let me see if I can.
So first you
this is-
have to have audio hijack.
Right. So you start with Audio Hijack, and then in Audio Hijack, you bring in your sources. So I have Zoom Cuts, which is red because I don't have it open right now. And then I've got Zoom, and then I've got Ecamm Live. Then you put the meter right in the middle. And then for me, I needed to send an output device so that I can still hear all these things, because if I don't set it up the output, then I won't be able to hear you. And then this little guy, once you press start, this little guy up here pops up, and then it just kind of works.
It does begin with having a Mac, though.
For this app, it does begin with
Right.
having a Mac, right?
Doesn't audio hijack have meters built into it, or is the WLM the meters that it uses automatically? Because I never bought extra meters, and there
It
was
does-
a meter in there.
It does not use this. It does not use WLM automatically. I'm not sure. I know for a fact it doesn't use.
Oh, I am sure it doesn't. It's something you have to buy. It's a plugin, and WLM recognizes it as a plugin. So, or Audio Hijack recognizes WLM as a plugin. But I mean, David, you're so far above the average user. Like, you are much closer to broadcast. Your workflow is much more tilted towards broadcast standards than a novice. Like you're humble, and you don't. You've already lost half the audience.
No. I understand, but half the audience doesn't have to do this. Just the host, just the TD has to do.
Sure, but what I'm trying to say is everyone can have reasonably good audio without spending a lot of money just doing some
Agreed.
simple techniques.
100%, absolutely.
What is the I am trying to level up because of what I'm doing. So I would be the host with that to be able to. What is the number that you're keeping people at, that people are looking at going, oh, I should be at this range?
That's a big debate.
And that's my question.
24, 28.
The key is just to have a standard.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to stick with. So the standard, I think, has shifted in office hours from 23 to 28, hasn't it? I think
it went up to 20 and then it came back down to 24. I don't know what it is right now. I haven't been there in the last couple of months.
I think LUFs are very debatable. Netflix or some other podcasting company will tell you what their standards are, but then everyone has to adhere. That's the important thing, is that everyone adheres to the same standard.
Right.
Right. And what I can add to that too is that YouTube is different than Zoom as well. So again, there is a few different. So if you are broadcasting to YouTube, there is the potential that you could have your LUFs too high.
Right.
In that regard. But there is published numbers from YouTube as well, what the LUFS numbers are. And I think
the event I would be
going
using
after-
it for is a meeting, but not it wouldn't be done to Zoom.
The
But
real
I'd love
idea,
to get
though,
them
is
to be much more equal so that it's
Yes.
not different for every person going in.
That's exactly the point, right? So if everyone settles on -24 or -18, and you're all very close to that, then each individual won't have to turn their audio up and down when you get the loud person and the quiet person.
This is what I'm hoping for, my
Right.
hopes and dreams.
Right. And the other thing that also is a big problem, especially on PCs, is the let Zoom automatically control the volume. That infamous box that's right underneath that.
During my tech, I get them to turn it off. The biggest problem for me in the last 2 years, which has been solved by Zoom, thank you, Zoom, is original sound not maintaining once you go into a breakout room, because I use a breakout room as my theater. And so I prep people and then they go in and all my singers can't sing because it cuts them off. So original sound does maintain now when you go into breakout rooms. So that's helpful.
So I have a follow-up question, I guess. I thought earlier in this meeting that we said you turn on the automatic adjustment in the sound for Zoom so that your people are relatively the same if you're not sure if the inputs are different. Is not what we said?
I think
I don't.
it's two of the same things, right? One is if you want to have higher production value where you as the host are kind of setting everybody's levels or making sure that they're standing to a standard, or if it's I don't have meters, I don't have any of that stuff, then I'm going to let Zoom do that for me, and it's going to do a pretty good job. And it does do a really great job, to be honest with you, if people are not singing or changing dramatic levels of their voice.
And we use that all the time because in the meeting, it's a Quaker meeting for worship. There's a circle of people in a room, or the microphone's over here and everybody's around it. If someone stands up right next to the microphone and says something, great, no problem, you can hear them. But if they're on the other side of the room, the sound level from the same Zoom microphone is going to be much dimmer at that time. And so it's doing a pretty good job of making it so that the people online can actually hear the people in the room, whether they're close or they're far away.
Yeah, my comment was for people who have no knowledge or ability, Zoom will do a better job. If you're someone who understands audio, then you can probably do a better job than Zoom. So it's sort of like if you have a camera and you want to take a picture and you don't know what white balance is, then let the camera figure it out. If you don't understand how to focus, let autofocus do it for you. But if you understand those things, I would rather, when I'm using a professional video camera, I want manual white balance, I want manual focus, because I know how to use the equipment.
Right. And to be very clear, the one thing that Zoom has done so well is their audio. They have, I mean, if you just aren't sure how great Zoom is compared to how it was in 2020, go ahead and have everybody put original sound on and just listen to how much noise. And that is what it was like in 2020. We were all exhausted at the end of a Zoom call. You couldn't stay on Zoom for very long because it was exhausting. When I do auditions in New York and I have to have them have original sound on, I hear every fire person, I hear screaming on the streets, I hear every bit of noise. Zoom has done such a good job with noise cancellation and with, echo control and all of those things that for most people, that is literally all they need is Zoom's auto and to sound good. And again, if it prioritizes in the center. So if there's anything too high or too low, which is why it clips them with singing, or if they go into something dramatic, if they get too loud or too low, then it will clip them. But for 99.9% of the way people are using Zoom, it is perfect.
So this is, I think, to Frank. If I have, let's say I've got 8 people and I'm going to record a radio show. So I don't care about the picture. And everybody is able to set that little button that says automatically adjust, except one person. Now, when that happens, when most of them are automatically adjusting and this one person isn't, what's the recording going to do? Is it depend upon whether the person recording it has that automatic thing on, or does that one person who's not part of the group going to make a problem?
So when you turn that checkbox on, it's managing your audio. It's not managing the audio for the whole meeting. So if you have 8 people and 7 of them have it turned on, you're going to have reasonably good audio if there isn't something crazy going on dynamically in the room. But that one person is an unknown factor. I would probably have a pre-meeting with them in the environment that they're actually going to meet in. I would try it out and try to get a sense of what it's going to be. And if you can record to cloud, you can record each person's audio individually as a separate audio stream. And then you may have to do some audio editing on that one person's thing if quality matters to you.
I record to the computer and I always record separate audio for each individual. Many times I don't have to ever use it, but every once in a while there's something. And usually, of course, I'm just doing one-on-one interviews. But when we're having a group discussion like that, there's no way these folks are going to go and be where they're going to be and test it out the day before. It's like, oh my God.
Well, then you're going to get what you're going to get. So the best thing you can do is record a separate audio for each one.
Yeah.
Lois, I pulled a vanity card. If you want to sound good, then you're going to come to Tech Check. And I will guarantee you, I can tell immediately anybody who has not come to Tech Check.
But you're talking about people who are interested and for
Exactly.
whom it is important. They're actors and they're
Right.
all that sort of stuff. I'm talking about people who are discussing something that has absolutely nothing to do with tech or with sound or with anything. That's okay. But thank you for the answer. And I think I understand better now how that automated thing works.
If they accept being a guest on your radio show, which I have, they don't listen to you when you said, listen, we just need to do a sound check?
If I was interviewing one-on-one, yes, that would happen. But what I'm talking about is a group that's having a meeting and they want me to record it and, for historical purposes, et cetera, and so forth. And they're interested only in the meeting. They're not interested in anything else. So I'm trying to do as much on the back end out of view as possible to improve, our chances of having something semi-decent. I know it's a real low bar here. Mike Latta, would you be on my radio show?
Sure.
All right. Well, do that. Tamara Pika, would you be on my radio show?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
I would need more information.
Frank's gone. No, I'll ask him anyway. Hey, Frank, would you be on my radio show?
I would want to know what it's about before I make an agreement to do anything.
It's about whatever you say. Ray,
So
Ray
tell
is-
me more about your show. What's the focus of your show? Who's your audience? What are you doing?
Okay, it's called That's Life. It's little community radio here in Davis, California, which is a college town. And sometimes I find people walking down the street and I talk to them and say, oh, gee, what is it you do? And oh, that's an interesting job. You want to be on my show? And they come in and they sit down and say, so what's a dog catcher anyway? Or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
if my schedule allows it, sure, I could help you out. I've done lots of what we call in the news industry streeters or man on the streets. I've done lots of those, but I went into broadcasting. Some people go into broadcasting to be in front of the camera, and some people go in broadcasting to be behind the camera. And I was one of the people who chose to be behind the camera because I don't like being out front. But sure,
It's radio,
It's radio.
and you have a face for radio.
thank you. My point was, there's people who want to be the presenter, and there are people who want to be the technicians, and I always gravitated towards being the technician.
Well, we appreciate that because you bring a tremendous value to this event, and I'm sure to everything else you participate
Wow,
in.
thank you. That's very kind.
Who wants to wrap this thing up? David's gone. We're obviously concerned about his situation, and we're glad that he made a visit. This is always an interesting Friday afternoon for those of us that participate in the Zoom test kitchen, and we're doing everything we can to continue to perpetuate it. So we invite people that are watching on YouTube to join us on Fridays at 3:00 Eastern time, and that's a fun way to participate in this clearly scripted event. Tamara, what have you got? Help us wrap this up.
I don't have much of anything. I'm just excited to be back on the test kitchen. The last few weeks I've been watching from YouTube, and I've had like FOMO.
I have something to say to Tamara. You have an amazing voice. I could listen to you all day long. You should be narrating books or something. You have a great voice.
That's my microphone.
Oh, whatever you're doing,
voice.
it's working for you. Let's put it that way.
Excellent. Thank you.
And she's not an avatar, I can assure you. Lois, how about wrapping this up? You're a longtime regular participant in the Zoom Test Kitchen, and I've watched you from the very, very early stages where you barely had a computer to now being a consultant to the world on how to do a decent event.
Well, I still do things with plain vanilla, plain Zoom, one monitor. Yeah, I bought a second monitor. I don't know where I'm going to put it because my desk is too small. I mean, I was going to make this entire studio in the back room. Nah, never happened. So I think Zoom Test Kitchen is a wonderful tool. And I hope that the listeners, those people out there on YouTube are watching this after the fact, come back. Think about your questions. Think about what you want to do that you can't figure out how to do. Or maybe you can figure out how to do and you want to share something that, oh, wow, look what happened. Come back. Come back. And you can come on the show or you can just watch the show. Doesn't matter. Zoom Test Kitchen. We're going to keep going.
Great promo. That's a wrap. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a good weekend, and we thank you for participating in the Zoom Test Kitchen. Sometimes it runs another hour. I don't have that kind of time today, and therefore we're going to call it a day. Mike, you have had significant testing practice. I hope that
Yes.
You've learned some things and have conquered some things. The first of which is to make sure all the software is up to date before you attempt something.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, I found out, well, vMix is, again, I'm in the preview mode. So it is what it is. So I am in the beta, they call preview mode. So it's not even really released yet. So
we're glad you had a chance. We're glad you had a chance to tech it here. And that a lot of people do that. And that's a fun part of the Zoom Test Kitchen. With that, I say thank you, everybody. And we're going to call it a wrap. And we'll see you next week, Friday, 3:00 Eastern time. And join these fine folks and others who find their way here. Take care.